not just in bread. So let's find out where gluten is and what gluten can do to your health. And by the end of this session, this podcast, you'll end up with a decision whether you want to remove gluten or you want to still go in. But at least you have the tools, you have the information why you should or should not reduce it. Okay. This is not about gluten-free diet. That's another topic. And that is, I would say that's a personal choice. And for those who are sick, it's not really personal. Okay. There are people who go it personally because they have personal reasons to do that. Because for today, it's like a trade thing. But beyond the trade, we have to understand there are people who are really sick. And I have heard doctors saying if you don't have celiac disease, there's no need of you going gluten free, which we're going to find out is a big mistake. Okay.
Okay, got it. Let's get to it.
Okay. Okay. When was the last time you ate gluten bread?
Honestly, I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had like gluten bread in quite some time. I'm talking about over 5 years. So
Really?
everything that I, yeah, everything that I do is I eat keto bread.
Okay.
Even if I'm having a broth work,
Okay.
keto buns, anything. I do everything keto.
Okay. Okay. In this article, we're going to explore what is gluten, how gluten affects your gut and microbiome, connections with chronic inflammation, mental and brain health, modern diseases like allergies and all that, and whether gluten is a problematic to every human being or just some few. Okay. So, what
Okay.
is gluten? Gluten is a protein. Okay. And wheat has a lot of proteins, but we're going to stick to two. When you hear gluten, what do you hear? The word. What is it? What are you hearing? Gluten.
Uh-huh.
What are you
Honestly,
hearing?
when I hear gluten, I think
What are
of
you hearing?
I think of bloating. So when I used to
Okay.
eat a lot of bread,
But when I say gluten, what are you hearing?
glue.
Glue.
Mm.
Exactly. So there is gluten and there is glutenin and there is gliadin. Glutenin is a protein that helps the bread to be elastic. It's glue. Okay.
Uh,
From Greek word, it's glue. Okay. And then we have gliadin, which is also another protein. However, gluten is not only found in wheat, it also in barley and bran. Some would say in there's some, but not the same type of gluten that in wheat. That is in oats. You can
mhm.
also find it in some proteins that can also cause issues in rice and quinoa. There are many grains that can have different types of protein that can be sensible, that can cause, some, let's say not healthy issues, but more bloating or, have sensitivity to some kind of gluten. Gluten, but being proteins, but in different grades. Okay. That's why sometimes you hear a lot of people saying, I'm going grain free, because problematic is not only in wheat. Okay, there is also some people who have that sensitivity in other glutens in other plants. But to our problematic today, it's more in gluten that comes from the wheat. That's the one has been mostly studied and the one that people has majority of problems because it's also the most consumed food, I
Mm.
guess. If you look at barley or rye, they're rarely found in normal shops. Okay,
Right.
so both of these are proteins, and so when we eat bread, we have these gliadin. That's the one we are going to talk a lot about it. And so we are looking at how gliadin affects the gut and microbiome. Okay. So we don't, as humans, we don't have enzymes to completely break down the gluten,
Gotcha.
especially the gliadin part. Okay. And so when we don't break it down, it can be eaten and stick in the gut area. Okay. But here's the thing. When you have this doesn't mean necessarily that the gluten is going to cause problem. You can also have problems before eating gluten, but gluten can be a causative, can cause problems. And here's how. When you have these peptides
Hmm.
hovering around like, let me just get out. Do you know what you can look at the donut, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what is the relationship? How us and donut have in common? What do we have in common?
As far as
Gluten, I mean, us and donut, the way you see donut, it's a circle thing like this, okay?
correct. Yep.
Circular, right? And it's the whole through, right?
Correct.
As two, from mouth to down to the bottom to the innards, it's a hollow thing. So we are this hollow thing. It's outside. It's considered as outside. And so when you get the food only gets into the inside through the gut lining, that is through the small intestine. And when the gladins gets there, there is a gatekeeper. There's some junctions. We call them tight junctions. Like it's a you see like your skin has 5 layers of skin. The
Hmm.
small intestine has only one layer of cells. That is to permit the food to get inside, to be absorbed in the blood. And
Gotcha.
so there is a gatekeeper who, when you eat, has to open the gates, the junctions, so that the food can get inside. Okay, can be assimilated. Now, gliadin, when it gets to net to the stomach, to this gatekeeper, kind of seduces him or it. It's called zonulin, and the zonulin opens the gate. So just imagine you going to want to see a minister or maybe your president, and you can't get go through him. You need to go through the gatekeepers, right? You have to go,
Okay.
and they say whether they have to check around. So this gatekeeper, the gliadin from the gluten, speaks a good language, and the gates get open. And so the peptides that we can't digest gets to go to the bloodstream.
Got
Now here it causes inflammation, because these glidings, when it gets into the bloodstream, the your immune system sees that as a virus of a bacteria or a bacteria. It's like a pathogen. It's not, and it starts attacking it. Okay, it's not
got
recognizes anything that passes through there. It wasn't supposed to pass through there. It's an enemy. It's not self. It has to be attacked. So that's how the gut is. It can cause leaky gut.
So you mean to tell me
Leaking.
I can have a donut every once in a while?
So so when the gut opens, the problem comes in is the gatekeeper doesn't know who is who entering. Everyone gets in. So whether there was some bad bacteria or viruses that were struggling outside that wall, now they
Right.
get inside your bloodstream, and now you have all the havoc of other things that are coming up. So that's
So let's
one way.
let's circle back real quick
Well,
for
yeah,
the audience here. What's the gatekeeper?
the
Can you
gate
tell us again?
the gatekeeper is called zonulin. It's a molecule. Okay,
Gotcha. Okay.
it's there. It opens and closes the doors, the gates, and it's there. tight junctions is just like small junctions like this. I know people can see my hands like this, and they just
Mhm.
have to open a little bit for the food to get inside to pass through. Now, these are not particle foods like the way you're thinking, but it's the way they are supposed to go into the bloodstream, because that's the only way you can have we nourish ourselves. Whenever you eat, the food doesn't go directly to your organs. They have to get into the blood, and from the blood, through the cell walls of the small intestine, that way they get into the blood. Okay.
Gotcha.
And so zonulin is there, but when the gluten makes it open, it was not supposed to open as such. Okay. So the gluten is like, hey guy, I would like to get inside, would you just let me get in?
Right.
And now gluten, when it gets inside, it's not just getting inside itself. It's just like when you go, like, I don't know, I don't want to use this like yeah, let's say you wanted to get into a night place or a bar, and there is a gatekeeper there. And when you get there, there are also some other people who have been waiting there, but they couldn't get inside. But now that you were allowed to get inside, they flop in with you. You get,
Gotcha.
so you create that chance of them to get inside. Okay, so that creates the leaky gut, and the other side, it activates the immune system, now causing the eventually the autoimmune diseases. Because once, not to everyone, depends with people who are genetically predisposed to have these to have a weak immune system, for example. This is why we have celiac people, for example. We have, we call this non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And also we have wheat allergy, which has nothing to do with the gluten, but anyone who eats wheat allergy is like you eat anything that has wheat and you get the allergy. But celiac is something that has been studied for some time. It has been there for, I think, even 18s. There were people who are suffering from celiac. This is genetically people who have that problem. However, in healthy people, now when the tight junctions opens, they close it themselves, just like normal cases when if I eat a fruit, it's going to open and it close itself. Now the
Right.
problem is if you eat like most people do, breakfast you have gluten, uh, you have a snack with the gluten, you have lunch with the gluten, you have your afternoon snack with the gluten, you have your dinner with the gluten. This opening and closing, depending with people, some will close fast and heal, some others will take time. And that time being opened, it's a problematic because it's letting other things come in, and it's also for the immune system is more active.
Gotcha.
Okay. You have any question?
Now, Maxie, a ton of things that you're saying this morning got me looking at gluten totally different. I'm so glad I don't really indulge in that, man. A lot of the
Okay.
stuff that you're speaking on, I
Yeah, but okay, fine. We're going to see that at the end, but you don't have to be very afraid of it unless you know that, okay, I have this, maybe your parents had problems, but we're going to look at it like it's not just celiac disease, it's not just having this sensitivity. The other things you might even not know. Let's go ahead. So now, when you have this, we have seen that you can have leaky gut because now the gates are open, so that most things get inside. That's what we call leakiness of the gut. And now
right,
you have autoimmune, the immune disease or immune system that is overacting, which causes the gut microbiome to be imbalanced. Okay, because these three works together. If you have a you have a leaky gut, your gut microbiome is going to be affected.
right,
And most of the times it's negatively affected. So we have now a dysbiosis that we call it, like the imbalance of the microbiome, the gut microbiome. And since, as we have talked several times, the gut microbiome is one key factor for good health. Now, when it is altered, you start having other issues as well. We know that the gut microbiome is responsible for many health issues factors, and especially like preventing cancer from the colon cancer. So
Mhm.
now when you have this dysbiosis, you are exposed to other diseases, even if maybe these diseases didn't necessarily due to gluten. Okay, we're together.
I'm together. I'm here. This is, I mean, man, when we talk about gluten here in the States, we always thinking about bread.
Mm,
And I can guarantee you,
mm.
majority of people in the US don't know half the things you just said. Honestly. So
There are a lot
honestly,
of
when,
people
when you
you.
mentioned it, when you
uh,
mentioned doing a podcast on gluten, I'm like, oh,
mm.
she's gonna be talking about bread.
Okay. I'm not just talking about bread, but we are talking a lot of things. Okay.
Exactly.
Gluten and chronic inflammation, I just talked about it. So it's going to cause autoimmune diseases like may have rheumatism, arthritis, thyroid disease, MS, IBS. It can also cause metabolic disorders that could be insulin resistant, can cause obesity. That's, I think it's an obvious case. Everyone is eating gluten bread and everything. It's not just bread, but the next thing that is really weird that people would not think about it, it can cause nutrient deficiencies. And I have had so many people and even papers, scientific papers, where we are going to be told if you go gluten free, you might end up being nutrient deficiency because now you're not eating bread the way you're supposed to eat it.
Right.
However, gluten can cause the nutrient deficiencies because the gut is now leaky and it's harmed. It can't absorb nutrients properly. I give a story that I heard from two different doctors. They gave stories of um, two different women, and there is this woman. One of them is a marathoner, and from day one day, like in a week, she found herself very sick.
Hmm.
As time goes by, she's on a wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
No one is finding the reason why she's sick. They do all the test, nothing is coming up, and she goes to one of the doctor who really came up with zonulin effect factor. He's called Dr. Fasano, and he told the doctor, "You are my last hope. Otherwise, I'm going to die." Like she was, because she's in pain and no one's getting the reason why. And with this doctor is a famous doctor.
Hmm.
He does the test, and him too. Even colonoscopy, they do the microbiome fecal test and all that. They can't find anything. And the doctor then told him, try maybe to get gluten out of your diet. And he said within the 3 months, the lady was walking with a stick.
Wow.
And then she
So
went
so
and
you tell
she went back to running.
so you mean to tell me, you're telling me taking gluten out of your diet, out of her diet.
Yeah. Made her get back to her health.
Wow.
Because as we said, we can say after, we can going to see after, the brain, the gluten, these peptides can get into the brain and can affect the neurons.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so the other doctor was talking about a lady who was having anemia. And no matter what they did to correct her anemia, she couldn't respond to the treatment, the supplements. And she was like, what am I going to do? And the doctor suggested, could you try gluten-free diet? And guess what? Within a month, she was back to normal with her normal. blood, I mean, iron in the blood. Just to say there are things you wouldn't even relate to, you know?
So that process is that fast to where if if a person stops eating consuming gluten,
Mhm.
a month's time you'll see a difference.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. There is also a case where people who have GERD, this is acid reflux,
Hmm.
can't imagine, has nothing to do with the gluten. And there are people, when they go gluten free, they just go back to normal health.
Yeah.
So here, I'm not just saying like gluten is the cause, but if you're suffering from some diseases and you have been told food has nothing to do with it,
Right.
please try to get out of the try the gluten-free diet. And gluten-free doesn't mean that you have to go buying all this junk stuff you see that is gluten-free. You can just do without bread. I didn't grow up eating bread every day, and there are thousands and billions of people who do that. They don't live on bread.
I got to be
Uh,
honest with you. I haven't had white bread. It's been like 5 years. But here's the thing:
mm,
I never really liked bread because
mm.
I never liked the way it made me feel. You know what I'm
And
saying?
that's what I like I would like to tell people, if you eat and you feel like you have some discomfort, you don't have to be celiac, you know,
Exactly.
go out of it, you know, listen to your body, because your body is telling you something is not working on.
I tell you this.
Now, the problem is, sorry, the problematic can be bread is never eaten alone. It's really that you just take a piece of bread and you just eating. So it's literally you have to be we call here like the Jodam. You have to be the police of your body. You have to listen to yourself, eat and then listen, stay a day or two without and then feel it. You know, yeah, go on.
Remember when I told you I invited my brother to join me at the gym and work out, right?
Yeah,
And he was a horrible eater.
yeah.
So we started working out. He's doing well, and we're at the gym having lunch after our workouts. So he was asking me, he said, "Why do you eat keto bread?" I was like,
Mm.
"Because it's better than regular bread." And when I tell you, he used to eat white bread by itself.
Ah, really?
Yeah, by itself. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So I told him I made a suggestion after one of our podcasts. I made a
Hmm.
suggestion. Say, hey, why don't
Hmm.
you start getting keto bread?
Hmm.
That guy has lost about 20, 25 pounds off of that alone.
And that's something that people don't get to understand, that it can make you add weight
Yeah.
a
I mean,
lot.
he was abusing it real bad. But once he
Yeah,
took the bread out of his diet and just I said, man, just supplement it for keto bread. It's the same thing. It's gonna taste different, but you'll
yeah,
find that it's not too heavy. So when he did that,
sure.
he's been going to the gym for 6 months. And when I tell you he's lost like 25, almost 30 pounds.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations to
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Okay, the other conditions that are linked to gluten is cerebral ataxia, that's lack of balance,
Mhm.
peripheral neuropathy, that is nerve pain, tingling, numbness, cognitive dysfunction, could be brain fog, could be lack of focus. We can also say there is depression, anxiety, with all that. That is mood and psychiatric disorders. Schizophrenia as well, and it has been shown in studies that people who have schizophrenia and they go out of gluten, their conditions gets better. Okay.
Wow.
Autism as well. A lot of people don't believe this, but gluten is also associated with some kind of autism.
I didn't
Okay.
expect all this, Kath. I didn't expect this morning. I'm
Right.
thinking we're just gonna talk about this bread and be done with it. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of information, man. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Beautiful. So, I talked to you earlier about the nutrient deficiencies, and here are the nutrients that if you feel like you've been eating gluten for some time, sometimes, and if you're anemia is good because you can feel it. But if you're lacking zinc, hell, I don't know how you understand that you're lacking zinc. You know, magnesium, you
Right.
feel you're tired. So here you have iron, zinc, magnesium, copper, B12, and folate, which is B9. These are the nutrients that you could be missing because either you have leaky gut and then that makes that you're not absorbing these nutrients well. So if you have been feeling this kind of fatigue, try to see whether you can remove gluten and see how it's going to do, or maybe just get tested, you know.
Gotcha. And for the audience,
Yeah.
and for me as well, can
Mm.
you explain a leaky gut?
That's what I said about the tight junctions, the guardian,
Got
the gatekeeper. Okay. When the enormous, remember again, the donut, right?
hmm
You see through, you don't see what is inside. You have to tear it up, right?
right.
So our gut from the mouth, we have this tapisserie, we can say we have this gut lining the skin that is lining all over that keeps the outside from inside. Okay. So like you can eat something. Have you had people, maybe someone swallowed a coin? It didn't go to the bloodstream, it just went to the poo because this lining here, it only gets opened into the small intestines where the food can get absorbed. And food, that's why we have to digest our food like into a soup so that we can get to absorb food. Because when you eat and you don't chew your food and it's just particles, okay, that's the only chance you had to create nutrients in your body because when they get into the stomach, the stomach where there is acid, it's just for the enzymes to work on them, but the enzymes are not going to break down the particles that you didn't chew. Okay, that's why,
Got
for
it.
example, if you someone vomits and you see they vomit the whole I don't know carrot they were eating, that means they didn't chew their carrot. So chewing the food is most important because that's how you're going to have the food getting into the bloodstream. So when the food gets into the stomach is like a reservoir, and it has some enzymes and all that is needed to break down some nutrients. So if you eat a piece of meat, it needs some enzyme to break that meat. If you eat carbohydrates from the mouth, the carbohydrates broken down and it's going to. So from it's a reservoir. So when you eat, your food is not going straight boom and drops on the other side. Okay. As we said, it's an open thing, right? You imagine yourself, if you eat, the food is not dropping out on the other side. So when you eat, the stomach is a reservoir where it holds the food and releases those food slowly by slowly into the small intestines.
Got it.
Now,
Well,
in the reservoir, there are some enzymes that have already worked with the food so that they can be easily absorbed on the other side. When you get into the small intestines, you still have some enzymes that are still working on that food. And now these tight junctions, they're going to open so that the food can get into the blood. And when these tight junctions are open for one reason or the other, I don't necessarily say it's gluten that is going to make them open. Gluten is one cause, but there can be other causes for that. Stress, for example, can make the microbiome uh, imbalance, which is going to make the leaky gut. So the leaky gut means it's like you have a tube of water and the water is leaking on outside. It's not really going directly. It's not flowing. Yes, there is some food that is flowing, the water is flowing, but there is some water that is walking around, we are seeing the water somewhere. That means the tube is leaking the water.
Got you. Ladies and
Now,
gentlemen, we're a little over half an hour within the podcast, and I want to go plant based right now, immediately after I'm done with Catherine this morning. I want to go plant based.
now, why would you go do that? I didn't say eating meat is bad.
I know you didn't, but the way I'm processing this,
We're not talking about meat. We are talking about gluten. Has
I
nothing to
know.
do with meat. It has nothing to do with meat. Meat is another case. If you want us to make a podcast about meat, we can talk about meat. But for now, we're in gluten, and nothing is telling you that meat is bad. That's really not getting the thing. You're out of the subject.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, did you understand the leaky gut?
I do. I do.
So now the thing, when the small intestine is open, it's like I'm saying, it's harmed. It's like you have a wound. Okay, now it's not working well, and
Right.
since the door is open, anything can get inside. The things are leaking inside instead of getting outside. They are getting inside yourself. So, for example, if you have a leaky gut and you eat, maybe let's say you catch a cold or something, and your immune system is not strong enough to kill that virus. That virus can get through the leaky gut if it's not killed in the stomach, because first thing, stomach acid is the one supposed to kill these pathogens, right? So if it escapes the immune system in the respiratory, goes to the stomach. If it doesn't get killed by the acid, now it gets to the small intestine, and if you have a leaky gut, now that can get into the bloodstream in your body. It can travel up to the brain, to your feet, wherever it goes. It can go anywhere. Okay. So, am I scary?
You're scaring me this morning. I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting to
Okay.
talk bread. Okay, bread.
Okay.
Now,
Okay. Gluten is associated or linked to more than 50 diseases.
wow.
Logically, we just talk about celiac diseases, but it's linked to more than 50 diseases. And this is because it can affect one thing and then cause like a domino effect. Okay, you
Like a
touch
chain
here and the
reaction.
whole thing, yeah, and the reaction gets there and there. Like, for example, now if you didn't absorb your iron, you get anemia, right? When you
Right.
have anemia, you have other consequences. Now you don't have enough red blood cells. Okay, when you don't have magnesium plays, I think, if I'm not wrong, almost 5 or maybe 300 roles in the body, right? Now, if you don't get that, the consequences get on the other side. What is happening when you don't have enough magnesium? One thing is you're going to have cramps, and you're going to feel tired. You're not sleeping well. Okay, B9, B9, B6. These are also for the food that you eat to become energy. You need the B6. For B9 is for the brain health. So your brain is not functioning well. So it's not just like every disease is caused by gluten, but it's a cause and effect. It's going to,
Cause
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
cool. Now, here is one thing. Where is gluten hidden in the food? And this is especially in most places like America. You'll find gluten almost everywhere. But it's just like sugar.
You're absolutely right.
So
You're
you'll
absolutely
find
right.
it in sauces and gravies for thickening, processed meat. You get it as a gluten is a filler, ice cream and dressings as a stabilizer. Protein bars and veggies burgers can contain wheat gluten. Beer and malt, that's for Oreos. Spices mix and seasoning. We didn't expect that. Potato chips, I thought they were gluten free. And candies.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah,
And ladies
yeah,
and
and
gentlemen,
then,
this is why I thought it was very important to bring Catherine on for the new edition of Conversation with Trend Friends podcast. And I mean, I've known Catherine for a ton of years, and a lot of stuff that she talk about, I had no idea. She's one of the reasons I started reading labels and not just carelessly just running through things, man. And this has been a very, very positive journey for me and changing my diet and whatnot and all that stuff. So I think it's very important for more important for the people in the States because we eat bad over here, really bad.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
consume the
but
food we consume
but
is hard.
yeah, for sure. I do agree, but also the problem is there are so many people who are also copying the way you live.
Right.
Like when I grew up, even if I grew up in the farm, when I came to the city, by then pasta was coming up. There weren't that much, but I know like as we started eating white bread a long time ago, white bread was there. But then you see people eating pasta and pizza and rice sometimes at the same meal. You wonder what's not going on here, right? Like,
Guilty. Guilty. I've done that in my past. Guilty, guilty, guilty.
what's going on? So, yeah, it's anyway, evolution. Let's talk about evolution of the wheat.
Okay.
So, because there is always this question that people ask, why are we talking about why is it problematic? People have always eaten wheat. I remember, is Jesus who turned wheat into something, fish into bread or something like that? I mean, wheat has been there. Sorry, but wheat has been there for a long time.
Very
I mean,
long
it was one. It's one of the grains to be cultivated by humans. So it has been there for a long time. So what's the deal, right?
time.
But here it's in since back in 1950s, between 1950s and 1960s,
Uh-huh.
there is this Nobel Prize called Norman Bourlough. I can't pronounce his name well. And he brought up the idea, it's called Green Revolution technology, where they helped to create more yielding
Uh,
wheat.
What's his name? What's
Before
his name? What's his name again?
Norman Bourlough.
Okay.
Okay, you can check for the Green Revolution technology, the Nobel Prize. Actually, he was given that Nobel Prize for that because he created uh, because of this creation of wheat. Okay,
Evolution.
it was a good thing for agriculture because now before the native wheat was much longer, much tall. Okay, it was taller, and so it took time for people to wait till it gets there. So today's wheat is low, it's short, and also it has more yielding. They get more of the wheat than before. Okay, so
Gotcha.
they increase their production. Okay, so what
So you
makes
mean
the
to tell me?
difference? Go on.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So it's like
Continue.
the breeding and the hybrid. Yeah, it's breeding of the wheat,
Gotcha. So you mean to tell me
which
I gotta have a conversation with Jesus about creating that turning that wheat into bread?
I can't remember. Was it fish? No, is it fish he turned into bread? I can't remember. I can't remember. Sorry, but I can't remember.
I think it's the wheat into bread. I think I'm not sure either. So
No, there
I'm
was a
not
time
sure.
that people were following him and they were hungry, and he said, and there was someone who had fish. I think there were five fish, and
Yeah, it was fine.
he turned to, I think, to bread to feed thousands of people. Okay, so
I
I'm
think bread
talking.
was in there somewhere.
That's what it was staple, and I'm saying here in a way to because maybe people will say, "But Jesus gave it to people. That means it's good for everyone." No, people who really believe in Christianity will just say whatever Jesus did, it was good for the humanity. So the bread well, the wheat that was then is not the wheat that we have today. And
Right.
so the wheat that we have has higher gluten. It has more gluten than the one that was there before, the ancient.
Right.
Because when you're saying that it was there before, it still exists. Like here in France, you can go and buy Asian grains. I mean, Asian wheat. So called spelt and kamut, or the other name I can't remember. I'll find it on my way down. Okay.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
so increasing the gluten also makes that it's more hard for us to digest these peptides, okay? That break down. We can digest them, but breaking down, so it triggers more immunity, okay? The decline in nutrition quality in modern wheat. Okay, what did I that say? It could be found that that's what I said, that it's a young, it can have more production, but it doesn't have high nutrients. Okay, you can read, there are papers that are going to tell you, like the American, they have this wheat, it's high in protein, but it's high in protein not because it's high in protein maybe than the other one that was there before. It's still high in protein, but not like the one that was there before. Knowing as well, before people didn't use the, what do you call this, processed food. They didn't process the wheat. The wheat was grinded on the stones, and
Right.
you could consume it that way. That's what you call whole wheat flour. But now when you're talking of white bread, it doesn't have any nutrients, just sugar and gluten there, right?
Gotcha. Yeah. Seriously processed.
Yeah, it's highly processed. So they're not the last question, but here it's the question that I know most people that be asking. When I talked about the gladine opening the gate, the tight junctions, and now you have the inflammation, I remember saying some people will heal that. So the gluten, no matter what your genetics are, or no matter what your race you are, it's going to open your tight junctions. That's the way it is.
Gotcha.
The only difference is, are you capable of healing or closing those tight junctions without the immune system overreacting? For some people, the immune system is to overreact. Some other people, the tight junctions are not going to close as fast, and so that's going to be like a wound. That's the only difference that we have with people who can eat bread and feel nothing, and those people who are going to eat bread and have a problematic. It's that closing of the tight junctions. But
Gotcha.
this is happening to everyone. This also means, like celiac disease, there are people who are normally at the beginning, it was only for kids. But today, I had doctors say that you can get celiac even when you're 70 years old. Why? Because this open and closing, as more you do it, might get harmed with time. So you become more sensitive as you grow up. Remember,
Over.
once again, bread sometimes was just maybe a breakfast thing, or maybe something small to clean the plate with, as French people used to do. But here
Mhm.
we're eating it all the time. So opening and closing those gates or those tight junctions at the end of the time, for someone who is vulnerable, it's not going to heal well. Okay. And it can cause now this reaction.
Got it. Here in the world, here in the world, like I said in the opener of the podcast,
Mm.
um, they consume a ton of bread here, even with like red beans or it's a whole bunch of bread. So
Mm.
this is very informative. Um,
Yeah, even here I've
wow.
seen the rise of bread. Like when I came to France, we couldn't buy bread from grocery stores
Right.
because you can only buy bread from the
In the bakery.
bakery, in the bakery.
Yeah.
Because actually, bread is only supposed to be water, flour, salt, and the yeast.
Right. Correct.
nothing else. And for here, for someone to say, we call them boulanger, for him to be a boulanger, he must make his bread there. It's not coming from somewhere else. It wasn't, there are some people who can make it from somewhere and bring it. You have to make it there. Okay.
Right.
So, for example, here, okay, let me just finish with this one.
Go ahead.
Why do people, Americans, when they come to Europe, they tolerate wheat in Europe more than the one that they have in America? This is something that has been mentioned a lot of time. I don't know whether you have heard that.
I haven't. I haven't.
Yeah. So the reason could be the Americans, they use red wheat to make bread. This is soft and it's necessarily made breaded that way because it makes the baking more like swelling. It's more for baking. So it's
Got
much softer. And I remember my son coming to America and coming back here and tells me, we have these flat breads, we call them chapatis. And when I make them, he tells me, why is your chapatis not as soft as in America? And no matter how I made them, he used to he could generally tell me they're still not soft as in America. So it's like, okay, them they don't have the same flour like ours. Like, okay.
at all.
And so no, it's not the same flour. So the Europeans, they have a white flour that is much a wheat. We're talking about wheat. These are two different kind of wheats. Even if they are breeded differently, they are breeded both of them. They're not Asian, but the one for America is more made to have high gluten so that it can please with the bakery. It's when you open, it's soft and it's all gluey. When you tear it up, you're spreading it so much soft. And that's why maybe your brother could eat a whole bread alone. Because
Yeah.
here, you buy that baguette, you go to the baguette, and by the evening, it's so hard. It's not so hard, but it's hard on itself. And if you leave there on the counter, becomes like a stone. Once
Right.
again, it's just flour and water, and so it hardens. You understand?
I do understand. I'll never look at bread the same ever
Okay.
again.
So that would be one difference. So that the fact that we have two different types of wheat that we are making our bread from.
Right.
Second is the less use of glyphosate in Europe, which is more the grain in your place in US. They don't have these regulations. That thing is because also of traditional preparations. As I said here, the baker, a boulanger, for him to make bread, he has to use normally the recipe. The boulanger, they leave their bread leaving at night. They making the bread in the evening, and it's going
Let
to
it
leave.
sit
It's going
overnight.
to it stays overnight. So there is that process, and also they're using most of them. They have special yeast. It's not just another yeast that you're going to buy from the shops. They have special yeast to make the bread. So the preparation can help break down the gluten, and also it's going to remove the phytates. The phytates are the anti-nutrients that can also cause can irritate the gut. Okay, so
Exactly.
the bread becomes more digestible. Go on.
Right. You know what's so funny? You mentioned
Mm,
something that made me think about my grandmother.
mm,
Um, each morning
mm,
she'd get up, like when we visit her in the summers, she'd
mm,
make she made the bread, right?
mm, mm,
But it would sit. She would say, "Well, you can't eat it today. It's gonna
mm,
sit overnight, and then
mm.
we'll get it in the morning. The following morning."
The
But
following morning, there is that part where you cook the bread, but you don't eat hot bread. But also the preparation of fermenting the bread.
right,
Americans, they don't have this. They quickly make the bread. They don't let the bread to ferment,
exactly.
and
But
that fermentation is very necessary. And also, if you have gut issues, or if you want to lose weight, for example, don't eat hot bread, because there is what we call starch, and when you're eating these starches, in the bread when they are cold, they are less. They will spike. They're not going to spike the sugar that high,
Right.
like the one
But
that is
I never
hot.
understood. I never understood as a kid why we
Why?
had to
Why?
wait to eat the bread.
Wait, yeah,
But
it's for the stomach. It's for that, for your stomach, for it not to hurt the stomach. I would
exactly,
say
here's
that.
the thing, man. It's the further we get away from our ancestors,
Mm.
we lose ourselves. That's
But yeah,
crazy.
especially yeah, in the food, the way they used to eat and the way we are eating today, we are two way. I don't know. It's just like two planets.
Yeah, it is.
Uh, yeah. So I'll finish with that because the bread also, the European bread doesn't have additives, the preservatives like you'll find in the American part. Okay.
Right.
I will read this. In America, your loaf of bread can contain additives that also appear in products like yoga mats, pesticides, hair straighteners, explosives, and petroleum products.
Wow.
Okay.
What a way to end the podcast, folks. What a way to end the podcast.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Very
Okay,
interesting.
now, okay, the question would be, should you go gluten free? Once I think everyone has understand here,
Hell
has
yeah.
understood. Not necessarily. Once again, I say depends with your source of bread. Make sure your bread is just water, wheat, and salt and
Right.
yeast. The best thing is to cook your bread. I think the problem is you don't have time for that. And if you're really healthy conscious, and you still want to eat your bread, look for the ancient grains. Here in France, you can get them, but you can't get them in grocery stores. You have to go to either the organic shops.
Hmm.
Okay, that's where you're going to find these the ancient grains. Um, Once again, this has nothing to do with the gluten, but has to do with the wheat in general. When you say, "But can I make my whole wheat?" It really depends what are you talking about whole wheat, because there are so many people. I think this is also in American, but I think you can also find it here. They will take the white wheat and take the bran that was removed initially. The bran is
Right.
brown. They're going to add it. So the wheat becomes brown just by adding the bran. So you might be confused because that is not whole bread. That's not
That is
whole wheat.
confusing. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
whole wheat.
I
It's
got a question for you.
mm, mm,
I have a question. So when you mentioned Asian grain,
mm.
what's the difference between the keto and the Asian grain?
Keto, they don't use grain at all.
Gotcha.
The keto uses almond flour to make the bread. Remember the ketones, yeah, I think ketogenic, they don't use grains at all because they are reducing as much carbohydrates as possible.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so there is no grain there. So you're eating almonds, bread from made from almonds and eggs. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that was the thing. Like, yeah, you don't have to. And if actually in, as I said, if you feel like every time you eat food that has gluten and you have reactions, try to go remove the gluten for some time, can be 3 weeks, and see how it's going to react. The problem with 3 weeks is that if the gut is leaky, it's torn, you have to give it some time to heal. And depending with the injury, it can take longer. Okay. And if your immune system is also really an overreacting, mine is one, it's really overreacting. If you have that overreacting, you might need a lot of time for your gut to heal and for your
Mhm.
immune system maybe to come back to normal. So try to remove gluten and see how you're feeling. And then, okay, fine. Even if I really wanted to eat bread and I read that it can contain things that has, I mean, all these things that I just read, things that are found in yoga mats and all that. Why do I want to eat those kind of stuff? You know, you have to read the labels being conscious, okay? If your bread doesn't have water, salt, and yeast and flour, leave
Right.
that bread. Maybe they might add something that's healthy. They might add chia seed, they might add flax seeds. But if you're reading some stuff that you can't understand what they're doing there, why they're even adding sugar in your bread? The wheat already is already sugar itself. Why are they adding some sugar in it?
Right.
So
Right.
be conscious of what you're consuming. I didn't say gluten is bad. I said you have to be careful. It's your own choice. Okay. No way
Got
you're informed. Like, okay, this is what it can cause. It opens the gate, the tie Jackson for everyone. It can cause inflammation to some.
I
I leave
get
you
it.
there.
So
Yeah.
we've come up on the 9 o'clock hour here. This has been
Okay.
very informative and fearful at the same time. So I've
I'm
learned
sorry. I'm sorry. It wasn't my intentions.
we've learned a ton on gluten this
Yeah.
morning here in the States, which is very important on this side because we're terrible eaters here in the United States. Let's
I
just be
saw
very
that. I saw that like from the morning to the evening, you guys were always eating.
always
You're
eating
always
and
eating.
it's always the
Yeah.
wrong stuff.
Yeah, it's
Always the
always.
wrong stuff. And I gotta be honest with you, man. Ever since I changed my diet 5 years ago,
Mm,
I'm in better health now in this condition than I was before this condition.
get
I
it, get
feel
it.
I feel I feel like Superman every
Hmm.
single morning. Get up,
That's
go to the
beautiful.
gym and
That's
work
good.
out consistently. So
That's beautiful.
yeah,
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good.
Good stuff, man. Real good stuff. Very informative, Catherine. Good stuff.
Thank you.
I'm afraid to ask you what we're gonna be talking about on the next episode.
Mm. I haven't come up with something. I don't know. What do you think? We talk about meat because you talked about you going plant-based.
Yeah, we should talk about plant-based
I had that in
plant-based
I
diet.
yeah, I had that in mind, and that goes hand in hand with vegan diet. So
Yeah,
plant-based is just like vegan diet. And yeah, I would like to talk about that because it's essential in the
okay.
world we are living today. Don't go plant-based just because you heard about gluten. Gluten is not meat. So
All good,
yeah.
all good, all good. Tell the
Yeah.
folks where they could actually find you and what find your wonderful blogs on food
Yeah,
and health and
my food and heal and surprise. I don't know how you're seeing that. That's my
good
book.
stuff,
Is
man. I
it
see
is
it.
it upside down or it's like that? Can you see
No,
it
it's
well?
right there. Everything. Yep.
Good. That's it.
Oh,
I
that's a
when I
beautiful
received
cover,
it
man.
when I received this book, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is my book because
Congratulations.
let me just show you. I like the way I like the way that goes. Do you see the heart there?
Oh, look at that. I see that.
It's so
It's well
beautiful.
put together, man.
It's
Congratulations.
yeah, it's really beautiful, structured, nice breakfast.
Yeah,
Um, you can see that. Okay,
this is good stuff, man. Real good stuff.
good stuff. And what I like about it, it's also it's not things that you're going to eat every other day. You're eating red bread.
Tell the folks what's the name of that book, that wonderful,
That's
beautiful book.
that's it's really beautiful. And let me just show you something that I really like about this. Well, I already asked you if you know.
Hmm.
Have you ever eaten red rice?
No.
Okay, good. Now you see.
Where do I get it? Where would I find that?
Try to see if you can get that from organic shops. Red rice is really super, super good. Another way to eat your pumpkins for
Oh.
breakfast.
Go back
And
to the red right. I want to see that. Can we see that? Put that in the camera so we could actually literally see the red rice.
the red rice, yeah. I made it with
Wow.
tea. Yeah, red rice.
Yeah.
It is high in antioxidants. It doesn't have it doesn't raise blood glucose like the white rice because also it's full. It's really don't know whether you have ever eaten plantains. That's
Yeah.
bread. Cool. I love this book. I love it. When I just
Tell
used
the
to see
folks.
it, this book you can buy from Amazon. So you go to Amazon.com and you can get it from, you type my name, Catherine Gitu. Guess that what is?
What is that? What is that?
Okay, guess what that could be? That's golden. It's called golden something. That's green bananas.
Is that really?
Yeah, it has green
Wow.
bananas. It's normally called golden latte because people use cucumber turmeric to make milk
Gotcha.
and drink with it. And it's so amazing. It's so amazing. Um, I remember when I made it last time, my daughter was like, "Wow, yeah, I remember you made this for the book. It's so amazing." The
Good stuff.
recipes are
Tell the
here.
tell the
Sorry,
folks
go
the
on.
name of the book so they can get it here in the States. What's the
the
name of the book?
best anti-inflammatory recipe breakfast.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
The best because they don't have any gluten, they don't have sugar, they are basically vegan. I have nothing to do. You can use yogurt, so
Guys,
if you
let's say
can
good morning.
go use it.
Let's say good morning to Michelle Kendall over in Chicago. Good morning, Michelle Kendall in Chicago, and Catherine from France. Say hello to
Good.
Michelle.
Hi Michelle.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Real good
Thank
stuff.
you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, that's my baby. And when I saw this, when I held it in my hands, then the need of making more just came up. I have to make some more
Good
books. It's
stuff.
because it's
Good
so
stuff.
wonderful. So
Good stuff.
yeah,
Ladies
and
and gentlemen,
so
you could
there is
actually go ahead.
go on, go on, go on, go on.
Ladies and gentlemen, you could always catch Catherine's again, like I said, a wonderful blogs, very informative blogs at foodandheal.com. I placed it on the screen so you guys can see it. Food,
Thank you,
letter N, heal.com. She has
thank
wonderful
you,
blogs constantly. So good stuff,
thank
guys.
you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, thank you, everyone, and wish you have a gluten-free day.
Yeah, since she's scared
I'm
she's
just,
scared
I'm just joking. I'm just
she's
joking. But
scared the
anyway,
beezies
enjoy,
out of us on this gluten. So good stuff, man. Real good stuff. Real good.
enjoy your day, whatever you are. So here it's 3 in the afternoon. Some people also they are maybe in the evening. So thank you for joining, and those who are going
Good
to
stuff.
listen offline. It's I appreciate this time. I appreciate being here.
All good.
Send your good vibes.
So I'm speaking directly to the people here in the States. Do you see the sacrifice that I do to bring this information, this very informative information with this expert nutritionist, Miss Catherine
There,
Get?
there
Do
you
you
go.
see the
There,
sacrifices I do here? I get up and prepare for you guys early morning. I don't go to the gym on Thursdays because we podcast twice a month, and I got to get up
uh,
extra early to podcast because of the time difference here between the US and France. But
oh,
I sacrifice for you guys here in the States so you can get this informative information. So good stuff. Go ahead,
can I
Catherine.
can I slice you off there?
Can
Live
you
to
do
you.
it?
Can I slice you off? I mean, were you taught to work hard in your life? You're not sacrificing anything. You're just doing what you like doing.
I sacrifice to bring the information
No,
because
there's no,
I could still be in bed resting right now. So
you made a choice. It's not a sacrifice. You made a choice. Because
yeah,
whatever you do as a sacrifice, you'll always feel
I
like
love
the
what
other
I do.
people, they like people are owe you something for it. And it's,
Exactly.
it's just the way you say, the way the parents would say, I sacrificed my life for you. No, otherwise no one forced you to do it. It's a choice that you did. You like
Thank you
it.
for
And
the gentle correction.
otherwise, we wouldn't be talking this morning. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone who is going to listen to this. So in on it, it's not a hard work or sacrifice. It's something that you like.
I love it. I love bringing informative information to the viewers. So you're
Thank
right
you.
about that,
Thank you.
but I do sacrifice a little bit. Now let me stop. I'm just teasing. I'm just
you
teasing.
you still want to sacrifice.
I'm just teasing. I'm just saying. You want to say goodbye to the folks?
I
Close
already
out.
did. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Talk next time. We're going to bring, as we just said, plant-based, which is also goes hand in hand with a vegan diet. So we're going to look at it in deep.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So until the next Thursday, you guys be epic. Catherine, I can see you on the other side of Thursday. Have a
Uh,
great moment.
uh, Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice time.
Conversations with Trent in conjunction with Taylor Kennedy Media and your radio network would like to thank you for calling in and listening to tonight's episode. We hope that tonight's conversation offended you just enough to turn your mirror inward to come back for more. So until next week's conversation, be epic.